Welcome back to BassDropProps. In this episode of Into the Build, we're going to revisit the JXTurbo project, a helmet that's been finished for some time, but it's always worth taking another look at. This build will allow us to use a new technique, which we'll talk about later in the video. JXTurbo came to us with a single image and said, I want something that looks like this. Now, you sort of get the Star Wars vibe, but our goal was pretty simple. Take the concept and you make it uniquely his. The best starting point came from Marco at Mystery Makers and one of his early Patreon releases, the Predalorian, a hybrid between the Predator mask and Mandalorian helmet. It already checked off most of the boxes we were looking for: a 3/4 shell, a open back for headphones, that signature T-shaped front. From there, we just refined some small things, tweaking the visor position, style, and smoothing the transitions, and opening the front interior for airflow. I even added a turbo intake detail near the ear, a small nod to the name. But after a few rounds of revisions, I actually scrapped the entire version. To me, it just felt too basic. I went back to the old school clay way with a new school twist. We printed Marco's base model small, just enough to serve a foundation for detail, and rebuilt the surface using monster clay. If you used monster clay before, you know the trick. Heat it up until it's liquid, then brush it over the base. That hot layer bonds better and makes it easier to add new layers cleanly. Layer by layer, I shaped out the hard surface edges, geometric forms inspired by ancient pyramids, but with a futuristic industrial sci-fi feel. Sculpting in clay lets me see how edges flow together and how lines meet and carry motion. If I'm looking from the top of the helmet, those angles should complement the sides. It all has to flow. A subtle face-shaped formed along near the back crown, visible only when both halves are joined. When one side is complete, we scanned it using an Evo 0.2, not the highest end scanner, but reliable. It gave us a solid STL and OBJ files. Working at quarter scale meant quick turnaround from the concept model to the 3D model. That rough mesh went over to RT props where the design was mirrored, the geometry was clean, and every edge sharpened for symmetry. We traded notes on visor lighting, visibility, and overall form until the 3D version was locked in. Then it was time for production. The main helmet was printed in black resin, the visor was printed in clear resin, and the LED chassis section of the visor was printed in a PA11 nylon using SLS. At first glance, the resin print can fool you. It looks like a finished product, but you can still feel and hear those print lines. It's like scratching the hook side of Velcro, rough and gritty. Keep sanding until those sound disappears, and when it smooths, well, that's when you know it's ready for paint. We spent hours wet sanding by hand. Those tight corners, deep grooves, and every edge demanded some type of attention. A pin sander would have saved us hours and maybe my wrist from arthritis, but it's all good. We started with a black duplicolored base coat, nice light even passes, and always watching for pooling and orange pill. The beauty of duplicolor is how fast it flash keys, letting you build depth quickly. Before clearing, we inspect every surface and make sure there's no bumps, pills, or roughness. After the base is cured and has passed inspection, we move to the 2K gloss clear from Nason. With those deep recesses, I used an airbrush to layer the thin coats into the corners. Even though we wanted to matte from the start, I still wanted to gloss first. The gloss acts as a protective barrier between the base paint and the world. Matte finishes usually scuff pretty quickly, and for performers doing 10 to 15 shows, that surface can go from new to battle worn pretty fast. For maintenance, the artist can hit it with a 1000 grit scuff pad to remove the matte layer pretty easy, and then respray the same matte clear, and voila, it's quick, it's clean, and it looks brand new. In gloss, the helmet looks insane. Mirror reflections, sharp edges that pop under light, but this shine does drown out some of the subtle line work. To tone it back, we used our secret weapon, Mr. Crazy Matte Clear, the same finish that we used for the infamous Grin's teeth. We let that cure and we give it one final wipe with a cat cloth to move the dust and get to the next stage. Next came the lighting. We wanted that T-visor to glow bright, defined, and unmistakably turbo. We lined the visor edges from the LEDs, running the strips from the bottom all the way around to the top, tracing that shape of the T. Lead wires exit right through the rear of the chassis, connecting it cleanly to the LED controller. A wall of plastic diffusers soften the hot spots. The angled LEDs, the diffuser wall, and frosted visor help spread that light pretty evenly. There are some still touches of light bleed. A full printed visor would have sharpened the edges even more, something you'll see explored in future builds. Mesh inserts manage airflow and visibility, especially on those top mesh slots, which let the artist adjust visibility just by tilting the helmet. The power comes from a 5-volt, 3-amp USB battery bank clipped in a belt or pocket for some mobility. And that's it. After hours of sculpting, 3D design, printing, sanding, painting, and some electronic work, the JXTurbo helmet came to life. A matte black finish, aggressive hard surface lines, a full LED visor with some sound activation, powered by a 5-volt USB pack. This helmet is ready to perform. Thanks for sticking with us through the full Into the Build. If you learned something, you felt inspired, or just enjoyed the process, consider subscribing and sharing with your fellow makers, artists, and performers. Until next time, keep building, keep creating, and we'll see you on the next one.